Yeah, Pops, on a typical morning, had to turn the fan on. The humidity is incredible. Apparently, it might have actually rained last night. But the problem is, if it isn't a good, steady, solid, long rain, when the ground's already been baked, it doesn't cool the ground, steams the air, and now you have hot moisture in the air. You have moisture in the air so that while you're trying to cool down, you're sweating, it doesn't dry off. They decided to put a topping on the road here on Main Street, but it appears they didn't finish. They sealed a section. It's kind of bizarre what they're doing here. They paved, apparently, I'm guessing, I didn't go to the east end. They paved, I'm guessing, from the bridge down here to Williams on the west end. Yeah, when they could have paved right up to Pennsylvania Avenue. Nope, we're going to stop here at Williams and leave the last couple of 100 yards alone that has patches all over it. Never understood what goes on with these systems, because then they make a seam and they come back and patch later, and then you end up with what we have right here, a seam of good road to old road. You know, the Bible has something in there, and I think it was Jesus that said it. But I could be wrong, Jesus or Paul. It said something about you don't put a new patch on an old wineskin. You don't put new wine in old wineskins either. It's just, yeah. Wineskins are more like the skin of a goat or something, I guess, to store it in. For all I know, it was in a stomach, kind of like haggis. But when they talk about wineskins, yeah, you don't put a new patch on an old wineskin. You have to throw it away. You get another one. Start over again, because the wine changes the nature of the wineskin. I'm guessing it turns it into more like a bottle. But anyway, that's kind of like paving the roads. So, well, we'll see what they come up with this time. It's always something that somebody has some new genius idea. Hey, we're going to do something that doesn't make sense. Let's see if it works. Oh, you know, our country's been around for, 240 years? It's probably been tried before, just nobody bothered to either put it in record or read the records. So what did I hear today? Tucker Carlson was going on about the lies that we're not in a recession. The food man, he said, to back up what he was saying, that this is a total lie, that we go back more than 50 years, two straight quarters of economics, that GDP drops. Well, it dropped 0.9%, almost a full percent, second quarter in a row. You're running around saying, well, no. We're trying to shrink the economy of the United States. So it's okay. Don't worry about it. We're trying to shrink you down to size. We're trying to put you where you belong, in your house, where we want you, with your electric car on our worthless power grid. Yeah. I like what somebody said yesterday, too. They're running a meme around. I'm sure it's longer than just yesterday, but they said, essentially, you don't remember to charge your phone. What are you going to do with your car? And that adds into the cycle of you're only going to be able to charge on odd and even days, depending on your license plate number. A la Jimmy Carter, when we never should have put up with that in the 70s. I sat there and said something to people. My mother went off on me, screaming like she usually does. The government told us to. You follow your leaders and shut up and do what you're told. I said, you don't. More than once she took a swing at me that didn't land. Then she go crying to somebody else. He tried to hit me. He hit me right here in the arm. And somebody asked the question, was he blocking you swinging? That's different. So we lost another family friend. It's kind of how that worked. Yeah, I was supposed to find another way around this yesterday, but yeah, yesterday morning, but felt sick and didn't do it. Tilbury is apparently being paved or something up here. Oh, maybe it's not Tilbury. I might be fortunate here. Let's see what happens. If they're paving this end, I can go around and do the other. There are a couple other roads that I can go around here. What's that? Day Hollow? Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to have you follow our pilot. Things in and out, guys, the road, so.
I used to go work construction at Anderson Equipment there, so yeah. If I have to drive by a machine with guys there, I know slow. Sounds good, thanks. Boy, you can't decide what to do this morning? Wow. Okay, well, when I was talking about the construction on Tilbury, my car is having a terrible time trying to figure out what speed to shift into. I've shifted about 6 times already. They're paving Tilbury here. Oh my goodness, look what they're doing. This is fun. Glad the lawn was wider there. When the Suco guys walked right out in front of me while I was rolling. So what they're doing here is they have an admixture, and they actually have a mill running. They're chewing up the road, adding to it, and putting it back down, and it looks like a full layer of blacktop. Now the sad thing is that nobody bothered to tell the locals here on Tilbury. The kids are going to summer school, a few of them. And, well, the bus has to come down here. Somebody wasn't thinking. Well, either the school or the town. Oh, well. Mike that used to own Appalachian Auto, I think he still owns the building and such, but gave it off to Floyd, sold off or whatever, but he's our road supervisor now in the town of Owego. Turned it over to Vestal Asphalt, which is common around here. There. Let me get rid of some wind noise. Man, Vestal Asphalt's running things here. You probably heard the lady talking about going up the road. That's what's going on here. Well, it looks like they've managed to. Well, it looks like they're all the way to Day Hollow. Now here's the funny thing is I could have gone over one more road, come up the back, I do believe, but well, that's not what they planned. Now here's another semi-bizarre event, but I half understand it. The pavement, the new pavement ends almost 100 feet before Day Hollow. Hopefully they've got a nice transition plan. A lot of people around here trimming wood and throwing it out by the ends of the driveway. It's kind of odd. Anyway, after all of that fun, going back to Tucker Carlson. talking about how this administration has no clue what the rest of us are thinking and doesn't care because they're in the position to make us do what they want us to do. They're in a position to make the world a better place in their view than the place that the United States was originally founded on, in freedom, self-determination, self-responsibility, personal responsibility, societal responsibility, moral values, etc., etc. They want to remake it. Redesign it. Nobody thought about that back in the 20s and earlier with Woodrow Wilson and some others. Furious, angry so many churches were around the United States. Furious and angry that just like Clinton used to bark all the time and Obama. The Constitution's outdated. The Constitution's outdated. It's got to be changed. And then they just kept talking about change to wiping it out. Remember in the 80s, I kept getting told by some jackass someplace, what was another recycled leftist, you just don't like change. And I looked at, I started laughing out loud. I mean, really laughing. I said, that's comical coming from you. He said, what do you mean? I said, you're telling me I don't like change. We just had the discussion about Formula One and NASCAR, and the two of us agreeing that NASCAR should have actually updated themselves, but they won't. And they didn't for years. And they should have allowed the teams to upgrade. Just change, maybe size or displacement or whatever. Tell them that they can have a car so long, so wide, so high, maybe so high. And they can have so many cubic inches, like Formula One. Same idea. Cars have changed into V6s. So allow somebody to update the system with a V6 and fuel injection and the old V8 with a 4-barrel. See what they can do. They come out with turbo cars. Okay, now you got a turbo car. Fuel injected, a 4-cylinder, turbo 4-cylinder. Now you got a V6 with fuel injection and your V8 with a 4-barrel. Imagine that. Maybe somebody decides they can run two 2-barrels on a 6-cylinder. Found a way to do it. Let them do it. Wait a minute. They're making bigger 6-cylinders. Well, does the 6-cylinder hold up better? Vibration different? Doesn't have the same sound, does it? Nope. Let's see what happens in NASCAR. Who can develop the most horsepower? You say, well, yeah, but then the cheaper teams, the smaller teams can't get in there. Or can they? Chrysler showed up with a 2.5 turbo. They couldn't make the 2.2 last as long as it should have. 2.5, the same 2.2 bored out. They put a turbo on it. Why? Because they just made a few minor changes. Imagine that in NASCAR. Bump that sucker up. Let them run what's on the road. That's what NASCAR originally was. And the way to make horsepower originally was a bigger engine. They used to run big blocks. They had to be careful on the corners. Why? Because they were another 500 pounds heavier. Then Richard Petty found a way to make a small car, lightweight car, handle so much better that on some tracks, his small block had the advantage. Interesting, isn't it? And Junior Johnson's out there with a small block winning races. Then NASCAR is like, well, there's certain people starting to run away with this thing. Yeah, somebody's found smaller, lighter, cheaper. It's called technology and innovation. Sorry, NASCAR. Dang. It used to be chicken and hog farmers that had some time off during the summer. They got their first cutting in, maybe their second cutting, and went to racing. Some of them didn't have to bale hay, or they could hire it out. They had people for that, so they could go racing. Oh, my aching shorts. Have your people call my people. Zooey! Oh, my goodness. But anyway, here we are with our recession, the same idea. People that are blind, deaf, dumb, and stupid because they have an idea in their head of what. They don't even have an idea of reality and how things work. They have no idea. They think they can just create a new world right out of their LSD heads. Long, stupid, and dumb. I should say lying, stupid, and dumb. They're the LSD I didn't get because I didn't talk in definitive terms. That's right. I spoke clearly. I gave them training sessions, just like a teacher. And one said, well, you're not decisive enough and you're arrogant. I said, well, what do you mean? You asked a question, I answered it. Well, yeah, but that was arrogant. I said, what are you talking about? I gave you the answer. Well, yeah, you acted like you knew what you were talking about. I do know what I'm talking about. I went to the training. I've worked on it in the field. If you don't understand, I can't help you. See? There's that arrogance. No, that's just a fact of life. If you don't understand, I can't help you. I can teach you till I'm green. If you don't understand basic mechanical and hydraulic and electrical physics principles, I can't help you. You need to understand the basics. And if you don't, then the complexity of a modern excavator is going to escape you. In fact, the complexity of most modern bulldozers escaped. I didn't tell them that, but that's what I was thinking. And you say, well, the night came through in your attitude. Yeah, it might have. Don't care. Really. People get it in their heads the way they want things to go. Perfect example, ebb and flow. Andrew Nethercott. Twisted, screaming, yelling at me. He kept coming out, starting it again and again, over an hour. Finally, at the end of the day, he launches on me. Starts in, keeps going and going. I try to answer. He gets more mad, more angry. He's turning red. His arms are actually flexing. He's making fists and throwing his hands in the air. He's turning physically red, spitting on the floor. So I just pulled the chair over and started. That was after the first minute. So I pulled the chair over and started leaning on it, just looking at the floor, waiting. Don't you have anything to say to that? Nope. He went on for at least 5 solid minutes, just going on and on and on. I tried to answer a couple of times when he stopped for maybe a second or two and then just started in again as soon as I answered him. Just went again and again and again. No stopping, nothing to it. Just howling away. And it's a memory I won't forget because I did tell that to an HR person here recently. And they said, how are you going to handle disputes and disagreements? I said, well, I can tell you one in particular. The guy had a plan in his head. It's an Eastern Area Manager, Anderson Equipment. Said he had a plan in his head, Andy did. He said I was supposed to go up, work on 3 machines, stay overnight to work on the 3rd one, and come back the next day. 2 things happened that changed everything on the way I was out there. I have to make a quick stop here. But needless to say, what had happened was pretty interesting. What Andy didn't bother to listen to that I'd been trying to tell him for over an hour, he said, who said you weren't staying overnight? So I just told him I didn't. I preferred not to. But I said if I had to work on the customer, I'll do it. It's just not my preference. You don't get to say that! Off he storms. Comes back later. Does it again. I talked to the branch manager, and on my way up the next morning I called him because I'd asked him where one customer was on the way. It would have saved 50 miles and probably several hours of time. I said, why don't I just stop there on the way? He said, okay. So I got the directions and stopped there, called back to the branch and found out the branch manager wasn't there. Well, what happened? Well, apparently there's a family emergency, something with his wife. And I said, all right, well, we'll keep that in prayer. I had to come back to the shop, pick up a couple items. What do you need? Told him what I needed. Yep, we'll get out what we got. Okay, see you in a few. Drove up there to the branch, talked to somebody else there, the second in charge or whoever he was. I found out, called the branch manager, talked to him again. And he said, nope, I'm out, and we would prefer you weren't there without me being there because you're not from our branch. And I said, okay. And the customer's machine is operating now. It's not having any trouble. He said, and he doesn't want us to come there. They're trying to catch up on the work because the machine's been almost inoperable. It's been derating on after treatment from the government. I didn't tell her that much, but I told her, I said, they changed plans. Branch manager was out and the customer wanted to run the machine. Just that simple. And I said, because I was left with a branch manager to make those decisions, we did. So I went up, did the 2 jobs that were available, made the second one quite happy because someone had already tried to fix a leak and made one small mistake that they didn't realize. They took a flange apart, put an O-ring in, and bolted it back together, but it was a steel hose or steel line arrangement, and they didn't perfectly meet. So he had to change how the lines were, and he says, "Oh man, I'll bet he didn't know that." And I said, "Well, I've had a couple of them the same problem." One of the reasons they don't is that, the O-ring blew out. Maybe it's a bad O-ring. He put it in, he tightens it up because it's not that far off. Guy's happy as a clam. I talked to him about another situation that he had, and we come to a reasonable conclusion with it. He had an adapter that wasn't something our company normally sold, and I said there might be a geometric problem there. And then we found out that part of it was just his load, and we might have to change his safety valve. So when I talked to him that there were possible solutions, he was happy as a clam, left. So while this guy's screaming and yelling at me the next day, I sat there and just waited for him to finish. The whole situation that he was talking about changed, but he had it in his arrogant head, and this I did say, this is the way it's going to go. Well, when plans changed, somebody got ill, somebody wasn't there, and the customer suddenly could run his machine and said, "I have to catch up on my work. Please do not come." Then you can't fulfill the manager's dream. I said, he was adamant about it, still screaming at me. So I just kept looking at the floor, and he says, "Don't you have anything to say?" I said, "Nope." "Why not?" I said, "I'm waiting for you," and I did say this to the HR manager. I said, "I'm waiting for you to end your 2-year-old temper tantrum because you're not listening. There's no sense in me talking to you under any circumstances because A, you won't shut up long enough, and B, you're still screaming and out of control." I said, "When your temper tantrum is over and we can talk, I will have something to say. Until then, no. One of us has to be the adult in the room. Apparently that's me." Well, she kind of bristled at that, and I almost laughed out loud when I saw that. It was to see somebody that was so high up and so arrogant in their own position that they couldn't listen to someone else, let them know that they were wrong, 100% wrong. And I told him, I did tell him outright, I said, "You're just standing here screaming and yelling, being abusive. And as long as you're just plain abusive, that means you have another problem going on. And I can't help you with that. That's on your own." She bristled again. "It's true." I didn't say it to her, but I should have. I said, "I'm 62. I'm not 22. If you want to talk to me about a problem, you can even be angry. But if all you're going to do is verbally abuse me," and I told her directly on this one. I didn't say 62 and 22, which I should have. That would have been better. I said to her, "I'm old enough now that if you aren't coming to me for a conversation, the conversation's over before it begins. I'm not listening to somebody that's just abusing me verbally. Done. When they calm down and they want to have a conversation, I'm the first guy that'll be open to talk. But if all you want to do is just unleash your emotions, pent up emotions on me and be abusive, I'm the wrong person for the job." She bristled again, which also told me that working for that company is dead end. It's as dead end as working for Admar. When she called, I wasn't even an employee. Wasn't even close. Hadn't even sat down for an interview, and she started screaming at me on the phone. And I said, "Don't ever call me again. It's harassment. I will call the state police to come up and see you. Don't ever call me at work again. Ever." I said, "If I hear another word from you, period, you will be hearing from a lawyer." I said, "You're abusive, and I'm not even an employee. Call someone that cares." Click. That's another one. Once I passed 40, certain things started going downhill, and one of them was talking with people and trying to reason with those that I know are closed-minded. I knew it before, but when I hit 40, I had a little bit more, how can you say it, starch in my spine from previous experiences to say, you do recognize this, you do have the confidence, and you can change the conversation. And in so, you're duty-bound to change the conversation. Well, I'm going to be late for work, so you folks have a good day. I'm going to put this one into the archive until I get home. I'll probably have 2 or 3 of these videos to go by that time. That way I don't burn up my airtime or my data. See you.